want to share your slides. I've just got a wee intro slide for everybody here. And as soon as you're ready, Sarah, I can start. Just you let me know.
Good to go.
And Loch Winnoch, which is there.
Okay. Good morning, everybody, and a very warm welcome to our event today with our partners, RIA Scotland, and of course the star attraction, the team from Siemens Mobility. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Shona Clive. I'm project lead of the Rail Cluster project, working with the team at Scottish Engineering. I'm also project lead for the Forth and Tay offshore cluster and other clusters, so we've got a bit of experience of running these types of projects. I'm also Vice Chair and Acting Chair of Women in Rail at the moment, equality, diversity and inclusion being a cause close to my heart. So we're currently in phase 2 of the Rail Cluster project. It's a 3-year project that commenced in July last year. It's funded by Scottish Enterprise, Transport Scotland and Skills Development Scotland. Phase 2 is all about building on the momentum of phase 1, connecting more Scottish SMEs with rail sector organisations, strengthening and deepening relationships with key stakeholders across the sector, and helping to create innovative green solutions that will support the ambitions of the Scottish Government's Rail Services Decarbonisation Action Plan. Giving opportunities for Scottish SMEs to bring in new ideas, new thinking and learning from other industries in Scotland into the rail sector will be key in delivering the decarbonisation of Scotland's rail services, as well as supporting sustainable local employment and economic growth. A key element of phase 2 is ensuring that businesses have access to support to address the skills-related challenges faced by organisations in the rail sector just now. Skills Development Scotland will provide support to companies to identify their needs, their skills needs, and how to develop their existing workforce in order to build capacity, tap into opportunities and increase competitiveness. So phase 2 of our contract follows on from successful phase 1. In phase 1, just to give you an idea of what we achieved, we had 7 SMEs active in the rail sector through rail cluster intervention. We had 2 SMEs successful in receiving funding in the first of a kind UK Innovate UK programme. We had 7 SMEs cooperating with academic research institutions. We had 942 individuals attending 18 events, including 284 from SMEs. We had 170 SMEs receiving support through one-to-ones, and we undertook 687 hours of one-to-one support. No pressure, but we hope to achieve even more in phase 2. So, our key aim for this phase of the project remains the same. It's to facilitate connections between Scottish SMEs who are looking to diversify or build their businesses in the rail sector. And we're going to, and our aim is to connect them in with the existing supply chain, from infrastructure contractors, rolling stock contractors, TOCs, FOCs, and all the others involved. And that's what today's all about, and that's why you're here to hear from Siemens, one of the key infrastructure contractors and OEMs in Scotland. So what's new for phase 2 of the project? These are just a few of the things that we're working on just now. I mentioned earlier that skills is an important element of what we're doing in phase 2. We've established a leadership group with Neil Archibald from ScotRail, Alex Dobby from Network Rail, Simon Higgins from Story Rail, Sandy Bathel from Babcock and Neil Robertson from NSAR, along with the Skills Development Scotland team. And what we do in that leadership group is look at the challenges around capability, capacity and skill set required to deliver on all the work opportunities. A new thing for us this in phase 2 is we've recently been accepted as members of the ERCI. ERCI stands for European Rail Clusters Initiative, in which we're one of 15 other clusters. This is supporting us in widening our ambitions for the Scottish Rail Cluster, being part of a European network. We also hope to learn from the other clusters and share our own experience as well as understand wider opportunities, innovation and development activities outside Scotland and the UK. Supply chain events is another key focus for phase 2, such as this event today. It's a key area of focus where we want to create these connections and share tangible opportunities that will support the SMEs looking to join the sector. And lastly, but not least, we're close to launching a communications platform called the Rail Hub to encourage more direct communication between SMEs and the rail sector companies, where SMEs will be able to access online in a password-protected environment, resources, information and opportunities, and join online forums and conversations. So there's quite a lot of new things, exciting things going on with the rail cluster. If you're not a member of the rail cluster and you're wondering where do I sign up, I've put a wee link in the chat. Join up right away. It costs nothing and you never know what might happen as a result of joining. Okay, so that's way more than enough from me. It now gives me a great pleasure to welcome the fabulous team from Siemens Mobility. We've got Nicola Phillips, Supply Chain Director, Sue Clark, Head of Procurement and Logistics, Rolling Stock. We've got Graham Clark with no E at the end of his Clark and no relation, I don't think, to Sue. He's Head of Business Development, Rolling Stock. And we've got Campbell Braid, who has two hats on today as Operations Director at Siemens and Vice Chair of the Railway Industry Association's Scottish region, with whom we work closely in the rail cluster. So just as a quick reminder, before I hand you over to the team at Siemens, can I ask you to mute your microphones? I think you're all doing that because I can't hear any noise. Thank you so much. And can I also encourage you to post any questions in the chat facility or raise your hand at the question breaks. There'll be a couple throughout this session if you want to ask any questions to the Siemens team directly. Thanks so much, everybody, for joining us today, and I hope you enjoy today's event. Campbell, I'll hand over to you. Thank you.
Okay, good morning, everybody. So I'm Campbell Braid. I'm the Vice Chair of RIA in Scotland. And my part-time job is I look after the Signalling Collaborative Partnership, which is a partnership that we formed a couple of years ago with Network Rail and Siemens. So we deliver significant signalling renewals enhancements in Scotland. So just a quick update on RIA. So 15 months or so ago, RIA, as a UK body, had decided we should set up RIA Scotland. I think RIA Scotland in the first 15 months has had quite a lot of quick wins and a significant amount of success on a number of fronts. I think, though, ultimately, what is RIA's purpose? So it's about the pulling together of the already really good supply chain that we already have in Scotland's railway, but we have acknowledged that that needs to be bigger, it needs to be better, it needs to be different. We're obviously operating in fiscally constrained times. So the challenge that we have got from Scottish Government, Transport Scotland and Network Rail is that we need to think different, we need to deliver different, but ultimately we need to deliver a more efficient solution for the railway. So in order to do that, RIA, it's pulling on the strings of Scottish Government, it's holding them to account, it's making sure that we can see a visible pipeline, which is a challenge, if we're being absolutely honest, which we should be. But in order for our supply chain partners and the supply chain in Scotland to grow, we ultimately need to see that pipeline of work. In infrastructure, it needs to take account of rolling stock procurement. How are we going to build a better railway for the people of Scotland? So that's the challenge that we face. And I think if we can see that pipeline, I think as Siemens, as I'm sure a number of the other big suppliers, we can then absolutely commit to growing apprentices, graduates, trainees, bringing people in from different industries, moving away from where we've been typically focused in the central belt of Scotland. How do we grow our supply chain base in places like Dundee and Aberdeen and Inverness and the places where all these big projects are heading in the future? So that's a real challenge. And I think I want everybody who's on this call today to be honest about how can you think different and how can you bring something different to rail. It's a lonely place when you get challenged. And I think there's some amazing contractors and amazing suppliers out there. I think we need to find new ones who have got better ideas than others, but we need to work with the current supply chain of how we go on this journey. So that's a bit about what that challenge looks like and how we're going to get there. So it's an exciting time, but it's certainly a challenging time. And then I'm going to share some slides and I'm going to give you a bit of an update on what Siemens rail infrastructure up to and what the size of that prize looks like. So if you just give me a couple of seconds with technology. Can everybody see that?
Yep, that's it now.
Okay,
Campbell.
excellent. Okay, so
Yes.
I've introduced myself. So just running through the slides. So what we're going to look at, and this ties in with what Siemens are doing, it ties in with what Transport Scotland are looking for, and it also ties in with what Network Rail are doing. So ultimately, we must every day get everyone home safe every day, whether that's a passenger, whether it's a worker, no matter what. In Scotland's Railway, we must get everyone home safe every day. Siemens have a number of safety initiatives, and it's about creating that relentless paranoia, healthy paranoia, to make sure that everything we do, we deliver it safely for the public and for the people and our supply chain every single day. We're obviously looking to reduce net cost, delivering net zero, and running a reliable railway. And we're a very, very fortunate place in Siemens that we can offer track and train solutions. So we're looking at that. So how can we use the supply chain that we've got, and the new supply chain to deliver that differently? We all know about the 2035 decarbonisation targets and what that entails. That's certainly a challenge, but it's got many facets and we need to be on that board. And it's always good, you know, Scotland, we're ahead of our colleagues south of the border, which is always good, but without being complacent, we need to continue on that journey. And we need to be sustainable, inclusive and accessible. So I know, because I get feedback, that Siemens are quite difficult to get engaged with supply chain. We've got a lot of paperwork to go through. You know, it's really difficult. And I think what today is the start of a journey of how can we make that easier for contractors and suppliers who want to come and work with us. We want to create that partnership. We want to create that supply chain ecosystem where it's a two-way street and we're in an open and honest environment about how we can deliver better for Scotland's railway. So that's really, really important. It's about creating that ecosystem that can deliver the best that we absolutely possibly can. And as I said, Siemens, we're a fortunate position so we can look at the railway as a system. It allows us to make the right decisions with track and train, what information, what equipment can be on the train, what can be in the track side, what can be in a control centre. So it's really, really important that we work through the various options and come up with a thing that is the optimum solution, which is ultimately for passengers and freight. It's not about delivering a job for a project manager in Network Rail or Transport Scotland. How can we deliver the best possible solution for Scotland's railway? And we are looking at how we bring that whole thing together. So we currently have 250 people in Scotland that work in Siemens Mobility across 3 sites. So an office, a depot, and we also have a team based at Shields that looks after a wonderful train, the Class 380. And we want to grow that base and grow that supply chain that allows us to go further and do more. And technology is one of the things that can help on this journey. You know, with digitalisation, it's not the be all and end all, but it's something that we believe technology can get us to a better place at the right number and quicker. So how can we go faster and how can we go further? You hear Alex Hines say that he needs a 30% challenge in delivering. We'll not get that just by tinkering around the edges. This needs to be radical. It needs to be completely different. And this is why, you know, we're having this session today. And digitalisation, as I did say, it will make a difference. There's loads of opportunities there. We've been talking to a number of SMEs about what they can offer with digitalisation, and it's how can we make it easier from a track side for getting our boys and girls on site. You know, we still have loads of bits of paper, too many in my opinion, but how can we drive technology to get us access to site quicker, safer, faster, and then we can deliver more of a night or a day delivering on what we do. So in summary, from Siemens Rail Infrastructure, the size of the prize is we are currently developing a pipeline in CP7 with Network Rail in our partnership. And the focus for the last year of CP6 and moving into CP7 is particularly based on the Dunblane to Aberdeen corridor, including Perth. So that's a line of route re-signalling, getting ready for decarbonisation and looking at, is it possible that we could have a digital signalling solution similar to what our colleagues are doing on the East Coast. We're looking at Fife re-signalling, we're looking at Portobello, we're looking at some work at Inverness, and we're looking at some resilience work in the southwest of Scotland. And what does that entail? So that entails multidiscipline delivery, design, construction, materials, supply chain, you name it, that's in there. So if you're sitting there thinking, I've got some good ideas, I would like to come and speak to Campbell and my team, then that is ultimately what we need to do. Because my challenge from Chris Kinnear, who I now work for in that partnership, is we need to deliver signalling cheaper and we need to deliver it faster. Bill Reeve in Transport Scotland refers to it as a distressed purchase, and we need to get Bill in a space where, I'm not saying he'll ever get excited about signalling, but he gets to a place where signalling becomes a purchase that adds value in his mind. So that's the size of the prize. It's probably somewhere in the region of £300 to £400 million over the next 6 years. And I would like to continue working with the supply chain that we've got, but I would also like to get some new faces in there. So that's my pitch today, and I hope you take that on board, and I look forward to hearing from everybody soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Campbell. That was great. Graham, I think you're up next.
I am indeed. Can everybody hear me?
Yep, loud and clear.
Right. I will just in the process of sharing my screen.
Oh, we can see you've got a busy calendar today. You're showing us your calendar.
I can see you've got a hot date tomorrow. Never mind today.
It's with my wife. It's with my wife. It's okay. I always call it hot date when we go out. We've always over the years done the. We always go out together 2 days a week to eat. I go on Thursday, she goes on Tuesdays, and it's always worked for us. That's right. So where am I? Here we go. So let's view full screen. So can you see that?
Yes, you can. Thank you.
Great stuff. So I'd like to tell you today all about the new train that we're developing. Explain a little bit about what that is and some of the opportunities for it. It's a brand new platform for the United Kingdom. It's a significant investment that Siemens are making. So I'd like to explain a little bit about that to you. So in the UK, we've got 400 trains that travel about 80 million miles a year, some of the most reliable fleets in the world. At the moment, we're just designing, ready to deliver the new trains for London Underground Piccadilly line. But in terms of mainline trains, we've got quite an interesting journey since the the start of the 2000s, where we introduced our first fleet of trains, which is called the Desiro Classic. Now, we sold out nearly 1,500 of those between 2003 and 2014 to a number of customers, ranging from Southwestern Railway right at the bottom of the country to the Class 380s that operate out of Shields in Scotland, primarily on the west coast. In the middle of the last decade, we moved towards the next generation of trains, which were called Desiro City, and these were the first UK fly-by-wire trains. They offer significant maintenance and performance advantages over the old Desiro Classic fleet. They have such things as inside frame bogies. They're completely fly-by-wire, which means that we've got no relays or contactors inside them, which means we've got far more space inside the vehicle, all sorts of technical developments to an extremely advanced train. Very successful with those. And as you can see, we've sold somewhere over 1,400 of those. The biggest order for that was for Thameslink that operate between the South Coast, Brighton, and then to Bedford and Cambridge and up to Peterborough. But looking forward to the next generation of trains, it's quite obvious that needs to be different. We see a market for over 3,000 vehicles that we believe we can win. There's possibly a total market of somewhere around about 4,500 to 5,000 vehicles for this type of train. But it does need to be different, in that the other two fleets of trains were primarily electric multiple units. Within the Desiro Classic fleet there, or platform, there is one diesel version which operates on Trans-Pennine Express services. But the next generation of trains needs to be quite different. It needs to be an electric multiple unit train, but it also needs to have battery capability over quite a considerable range. And the later versions of it will probably need to be hydrogen-based trains. So that's hydrogen trains that just operate purely on hydrogen, and also what we call hydrogen electric multiple units, which are bimodes, which could operate off a hydrogen power supply, or it could operate off a 25,000 volt overhead supply of a 750 volt third rail. So that gives you an idea of where we're going. Say a big opportunity for this. We believe we can secure somewhere around about 3,000 vehicles, which potentially represents an order intake of somewhere around about £6 billion, accompanied possibly by another £2 billion of maintenance. So this is something that we really want to go for. I won't labour on this slide, but the railway today is changing. Obviously, the organisation of it is changing in Scotland as well as south of the border. The direction of travel is quite different in that Scotland. It's becoming a far more nationalised, controlled railway, whereas in the UK, it's becoming more of a concession-based model, moving towards national rail contracts. But you can see, even when we get to the final state of the traction decarbonisation work in the UK, 35% of routes will still need alternative propulsion. Some of those are suggested that they should operate by hydrogen. About a quarter of them are suggested they should be battery operated, and about half of the routes have got sections identified as undecided. That's on the future railway network. The summary of this slide is basically just saying that not a single traction type will solve the problem. So there's going to be a place in this for electric multiple units plus the battery and the hydrogen technology. And that's what the new train, which we call Desiro Verve, is designed to address. Significant investment for Siemens. We've so far, for the first phase of development of this train, got approval to spend 150 million euros. That's Siemens R&D funding. To develop the core basic platform, and that will deliver the electric multiple unit version, and it will also deliver the battery electric multiple unit version. The second phase, which will be a similar amount of development, probably another 120 million, will develop the hydrogen versions of the train, and the business case for that is under preparation. But the engineers are now working solidly and flat out on the development of the Verve electric multiple unit and the battery electric multiple unit. And that's where we will be. The first opportunity for that is Scotland, and I'll come to that a little bit later. So the train itself is based on a 24-metre single vehicle architecture. As I say, the hydrogen version of it will be offered to customers from 2025, and we see some of those in service potentially from the start of the next decade. Again, Scotland will be one of the first opportunities, because there are opportunities for this on the west coast up to Oban and right to the far north to Wick and Thurso. The battery version of it will be delivered a little bit earlier, so we're offering that to customers from this year, and we'd expect the first ones to be in service from 2028. And again, the first opportunity that we see is in Scotland. So this train will build on the work we've done on Desiro City, which I referred to earlier, but it would also take a lot of technology from the new European Siemens Mireo train. And this train is essentially a version of Mireo specifically catered for the UK. So Mireo is a large gauged train. It's built to the continental UIC kinematic gauge. But for that train, we've developed fuel cell technology, batteries, bogies, propulsion, the train management system, all of which will be read across onto the D0 Verve. Top speed of the train 100 miles an hour, with a later version capable of 125 miles an hour, and complete flexibility of how we can form the train and an ease of reconfiguration. Available in commuter and regional versions, primarily with 1/3, 2/3 doors, as you see there, but later configurations will have intercity end doors. The other thing to say about this train is it will have a predominantly UK-based supplier content, massive opportunity for everybody here to supply components and materials and systems into this product, and we will build these trains in Goole, so they will be built in Britain. Just flicking through the opportunities for some of the vehicles over the next 15 years. The first opportunity we see is for Scotland. We're expecting an invitation to tender towards the end of this year, with the first unit probably in service early summer, late spring 2028, and I'll go into far more detail about that later. But we're following up with opportunities for Northern. That's another 400 cars. You can see TransPennine Express. After that comes Chiltern. All these projects are now starting to gear up towards procuring new rolling stock. And then last on this list, not last but not least on this, is the second phase for Scotland, which is trains for the Aberdeen services to get to Inverness and also to operate on the West Coast, which would be a separate opportunity for an additional 350 cars. We'd expect an invitation to tender for that sometime in the middle of 2027, with the first unit delivered into service probably towards the end of 2031. So if we look specifically at the first Verve opportunity, which is for Scotland, you've seen this graph before. We're moving from by Act of Parliament from where we are with electrification. That's the red lines on the map on the left-hand side, 2021. To a fully decarbonised railway in Scotland by 2035. As I say, this is an act of Parliament, so it's written into Scottish law. And this will be served by two fleets, we believe. The first one is the one that we're primarily discussing here, which is the fleet of electric multiple units and battery electric multiple units, somewhere between 350 and 450 vehicles. And that will be followed later on by an additional 250 to 350 vehicles. So the total number we're looking at in Scotland alone is somewhere around about 700 cars to be delivered by 2035 in two phases. Oops. The first opportunity, phase one, which are the ones we expect to go to tender this year, are for two types of train. As I say, one's electric, and they will be 4 and 5 car units, electric multiple units, permanently coupled, with a possible opportunity for a small fleet of 3 car units. In addition to that, there will be 4 car and 5 car battery electric multiple units, and they will replace a fleet of life expired electric multiple units you can see down at the bottom, plus some diesel trains in the battery format on the lines in Fife, and also, excuse me, the lines down primarily to down to Tweedbank. So we'd expect the first ones of these to go into service around about 2028. And this is a major opportunity for us. So it's something we're putting a lot of focus on at the moment, and it's something that we'd like to make sure that you guys understand is very, very real. It's very imminent, and we are seriously now looking to get people on board to help us develop this. Now, obviously, the point we're making here is that although we're talking to the Scottish supply industry, anybody who works with us on D0 Verve to supply components and parts and systems for the trains in Scotland will also be involved in supplying components and parts and systems to D0 Verve for the rest of the country. So we're not just talking about the Scottish opportunity here of 700 cars. We're talking about chasing an opportunity throughout the UK of probably 5,000 vehicles, of which we would intend to secure at least half and possibly 60%. I mentioned about battery and hydrogen. There's all sorts of discussion about battery and hydrogen trains. I just want to make it quite clear to everybody that these trains are here. These technologies are live. They're ready to go. You can see our first two. This is the Moreo variant. As I say, this is the UIC gauge variant, although it looks very similar to what the Verve in the UK will look like, certainly at the front. On the right, you see the first battery train. That's a production battery train to be delivered to German railways for services in the Black Forest, a project called Autonau. in and around Stuttgart. And on the left-hand side, you see a prototype hydrogen train, which is the first one we built. And that train that is actually going to operate in Munich, in Bavaria, so down on the lines around southern Germany. And that train and the battery train are currently both on test at Wildenrath, which is our test track. And you can see a couple more views there. The one on the left is the train actually running. So these technologies are here. They're ready to be deployed, and we intend to bring them across and deploy them in the UK. Just to talk about the technology itself, we ran a very successful 18-month trial in Austria to test the batteries that we're using. The batteries we propose are lithium titanate oxide cells. That trial came to an end. It was one train set out of an order for, well, at the time was 250 trains. It's now gone up to 280 trains. We operated that. We proved it was very, very successful. The technology we're using worked extremely well. We took a lot of customers to ride on it, and the general view was that it was boring because none of them could tell when it was operating on battery power or whether it was operating with the pantograph up off the overhead line, which is exactly as we want it to be. On the back of that, we've won 4 orders now for battery trains, 3 of them in Germany. So you can see the Ortenau one there, which is 27 trains. We've got a project for 31 trains in Berlin. We've recently won a very small order in Germany as well on the Westerwald Railway. Plus, we've got our first export order for our battery trains, which is in Denmark. The hydrogen technology, which follows behind it, which again will also be read across to Desiro Verve. We've got 2 projects within Germany. One is with Deutsche Bahn. That's the train that you saw earlier, and that will run on test at our test track in Germany near Dusseldorf at a place called Wildenrath throughout this year. And it will then be sent to operate in the Black Forest area. And we're looking at what we do after that. But that technology, that trial is to prove that we can maintain the trains, we can fuel it. So essentially we're providing the train, and German railways are working with us to provide the fuel, the maintenance, the drivers. We're providing the maintenance staff, and we're just making sure we've got a very holistic view of how to operate and maintain hydrogen trains. For us, battery trains now are proven. It's just technology we can deliver, but we've still got more work to do on getting the hydrogen trains sorted. There is a separate trial in Bavaria, which will operate between Füssen and Augsburg, and that service will operate in 2024. For hydrogen, we took the view of developing our own fuel cell in partnership with Ballard, who are the world's leading fuel cell provider. It's called the HD8 fuel cell, and it's the first fuel cell that's been specifically designed for railway operation. So it's capable of operating in extremes of temperature. It's fully tractionized, and it's been very, very successful in all the testing we've done. So that now goes into a more rigorous testing regime. On the back of that, we've won our first order, which is for the Heidekrautbahn in Brandenburg. So we've now got our order for 7 trains, hydrogen trains, to be delivered. And there's an additional 2 options on that. So the first trains of that type will be delivered into Germany in 2026. So you can see that the technology we're talking about, obviously we've delivered in the UK over 3,000 electric trains. And we've now started to deliver a significant number of battery trains, and we've got orders for hydrogen trains. So all this technology will now be brought across and put onto the new platform that we're developing for the UK. And that's what we'd like you guys to be part of. That's what we're talking about here today. So all I'd say in finishing is please join us as we bring this fantastic train to the UK. You'll see the first one of these hopefully operating towards the end of this decade in 2028. And thank you very much, and I'd be more than willing to answer any questions that you might have. Okay, that's me.
Thanks so much, Graham. That was brilliant, packed full of information. I think next up is Nicola, who's going to show us a short film of the site at Goole.
Yes, before I just go into this, Graham mentioned Verve will be manufactured here in the UK in Goole. I appreciate Goole is not Scotland, but it's as close as we're getting just at the moment for full manufacturing capability. I think it's just a couple of hours away, and it's okay because when our colleagues put it into the internet, it comes up with always Google, and we have to explain Goole is now the centre of the universe for Siemens colleagues across the globe. This shy retiring spot in East Yorkshire is coming up the ranks very quickly. So I'd like to show you what we've been doing there over the last couple of years. There's been a £200 million spend. All the spend for Goole has been spent with local suppliers, every single penny of it. Okay, so I'd just like to share and show this, she said. Let me get that going. So here we're showing the blank field, and you can see it's a significant piece of land that we've acquired. It's on the M62 heading out towards Hull, and you can see we've got the manufacturing facilities on the right, we've got the offices on the left. We've got a mock-up area where those of you that's come to our supplier event would have been in and seen the mock-up. That's actually in there of Deep Tube. Here again, different view of the land, just showing the sheer scale and the number of roads that come into this facility that are enabling us to undertake the work here. On this site also, we've moved our traction drive facility out of Leeds to this new manufacturing plant, and theirs is their facility on the right there. If you look right over to the right, just coming out of picture, that's the Raise building, which again, if you came to our facility, that's all the research and development that's going on with Birmingham University and a few other catapults there. So we're directly tapping into research and development, and you can tap into that as well. What we've also got here to the bottom of the screen is a nature reserve that we've been doing lots of work with for the local communities as well. If I bring you to the left again, the Raise building, you can see in the very sort of top corner to the left near the road, there's going to be a Raise building 2 put on the grass behind it as well. So on the patch of grass just behind that building, that's going to be a Raise building 2, so even further work for research and development. There we go.
Great stuff. Thanks Thanks so much, Nicola. That was really good to see. I don't know, we're just going to pause for a minute to see if anybody has any questions at this point. I'm just going to quickly have a look through the chat and see if there's anything that anybody's posted.
Or you can raise your hand.
Or raise your hand, yeah, for sure, raise your hand.
Then we're definitely no.
No, nothing just now, no problem at all. That moves us on to the next section, which is Sue and Nicola speaking about becoming a Siemens supplier, I think. Over to you.
Yep, thanks, thanks, Shona. Good morning, everybody. Let me just share my screen. Put it onto that load. So my name is Sue Clark. I'm the head of procurement and logistics for the rolling stock for the UK and Ireland. Just want to tell you a little bit about my team before we go on with how you get on board with us. So we're a relatively new team in the UK because of obviously the Goole facility that we're building. We need to set up an RS procurement team. So we're a new team. We're a small team at the moment, but we're going to be growing as the Goole facility grows. So you've got me heading up the team, and then we have 2 SQEs working for us. One is dedicated to the Deep Tube project. That's the London Underground Piccadilly line. And then we have another SQE who's supporting the factory fit out and also the new bids. So that'll be very much supporting the onboarding of any new suppliers for the ScotRail bid that Graham was talking about earlier. We're obviously looking to recruit a new project procurement manager. So we're looking into that at the moment, a senior category manager and some local buyers just to support the activity as we move forwards. So minimum requirements, how do you become a Siemens supplier? For those of you that have never engaged with us before, it's not that complicated a process. We try to make it as simple as possible, and we certainly will support you through the the whole process from beginning to end. We do require that you sign up to our web portal, which is SCM Star. Some of you are obviously already familiar with this platform, some not. It's very easy. You sign in, you get a login, you register into the portal. There's then lots of information, lots of user guides, etc. But one of the hard requirements that we have, and the first things that you need to do is read through the Siemens Code of Conduct and sign up to that. It's a generic document. You won't find anything unusual in there. It's all to do with compliance, obviously human rights, modern slavery, that kind of thing, environmental protections, operating practices, and obviously decarbonisation and social values, which is a very hot topic these days. So once you've signed up to that, then you'll get a generic questionnaire which you need to fill in, and then we'll ask you to provide relevant documentation. It could be that we need to put an NDA in place with you. We'll need to see your insurance certificates and obviously any certification documentation that's required. So depending on the criticality or the safety criticality of the supplies that you'll be providing, we may send one of the SQEs from my team, or potentially somebody from the headquarters in Germany will come over to visit you and work through an audit with you. Once we've got all the documentation together and we've approved the audit, then it goes through an approval loop within Siemens, and basically then you're on board with us. And just as a note here, for the minimum QA requirements, we have to have ISO 9001, and anyone who's doing any in-house welding, then EN 15085 is an absolute must. If you need any more information on this, there's a web link there for the supply chain management part of the website, so you'll get these slides later. Feel free to go in there and have a look at that at your leisure. So to get you ready for business, why do we do it? What do we do? How do we do it? Well, I've kind of just already explained this. We need all suppliers to demonstrate their commitment towards our standards and principles and sustainability in the supply chain. That's all contained in the document I referred to earlier. We need to get you at the what we call the R4B ready for business status via the SCM Star platform. So you need to get qualified and ready for business before we can sort of engage in any in-depth activity with you. So based on defined triggers, you need to fulfill several requirements, which is what I've just taken you through. And this is a worldwide requirement for Siemens, basically. Okay, next one. So how do we do business with supply chain at Siemens? Well, once you're logged up to the platform, we've got you ready, then we will generally 9 times out of 10, you'll get an RFQ issued through SCM Star platform. Occasionally, we don't have to do that in very specialist situations, but generally, once you're ready for business, that's how you will receive your inquiries from us. It just makes it clear and auditable for us from our side. What we're looking at and what we're hoping to see from you is obviously your technical capabilities, very keen to understand your capacity and whether you're able to meet the delivery programme and meet our requirements. We're looking at your supply chain, whether it's local or global. Obviously, very competitive prices required, and obviously the quality requirements also need to be satisfied. So again, the vast majority of the awards, some of you will already know this as well, some of you won't, is we do these e-auctions via SCM Star. Don't worry if you've never done one before. We have training courses that we bring the suppliers into. We will certainly make you fully aware of what our strategy is for the e-auction before we invite you to take part in one, and your purchasing operative will basically take you through all the necessary steps and walk you through the process. So it's a very fair and a very transparent way of doing business. So, and there's the link there for the supplier value management part of the website, which you can go and investigate. But don't hesitate to contact myself or whoever your category manager is, who's going to be assigned to you, if you need to understand any more about that process. So on that note, I'll let Nick take you through your organisation.
Very much. So Sue's just run through her organisation. Sue looks after the rolling stock side of the business, which is new build trains. In customer service, we look after the maintenance of the trains that are already here running around the tracks. Excuse me. So within that, I head up the department, and from that, we've got a mainstay of rail. If you've been around, you'll know Martin McGough. Martin McGough heads up the category management, and that's his teams. They're split into systems and services, and you can see it covers all the major systems from bogies, axle, drives, batteries, doors, HVACs, brakes, etc. And there are buyers who look after these particular commodities. On the other side, who's the head of project procurement, which is Ed Beale. He's got buyers and project procurement managers. Here, these directly are engaged with our projects. So the work that's actually coming from them. So if there's any overhauls that need to be doing, it's Ed's team that will predominantly be engaged there. So they're taking that day-to-day feedback. Martin's team's looking more at the strategic overview, etc. there. So that's who we've got there. Thank you, Sue. Here is the UK org chart from a specific fleet. Graham earlier spoke about the different fleets. You can see top of the pops, we've got the 380s, which is in the Shields depot out of Glasgow. As we come down country, we've got Ardwick, 185 fleets. We then go for the 333s in Leeds. We've got the 350s in Northampton, etc. They predominantly the classic fleets. Down the bottom end, where we've got Eurostar, which is the high speed, and then we've got the Thames Links, the Moorgates, etc., which is our city fleets, which start with a 7. So the 700s, 707s and 717s are the Desiro city fleets. So that's where our depots are across the UK, and that's where our work is. If, for those of you that wonder where Goole is, can you see my cursor on the map? No, it's because I'm not showing. Where it comes in, I'm going to say just below Leeds, where the UK comes in. This is the Humber Estuary, and that's where Goole is. Just to put it on the map for folk who might not, because Goole is not the centre of the universe, although Siemens now, we believe it is. But that's where it is, where it just nips in off the Humber Estuary. That is where Goole is. Thank you, Sue. That is where Goole is. You should hear us trying to explain it to some of our German colleagues. That gets highly interesting. Thank you, Sue. Next slide, please.
Oops, there you go.
Thank you. So, customer service. Maintenance of 11 fleets across UK, including the Shields. Maintenance circa 3,800 cars. Major systems have frameworks agreements in place. So when we talk about HVACs, that's a major system, and that has a framework in place. So once you get on some of these big topics and these big systems, there's going to be no flip-flopping about. You're in the door. However, that does say that if we've got a major system, it's going to be tremendous work if you're trying to get into there. So I would say that's not necessarily where it is. The major systems also tend to be tied up with the OEMs, as there is definitely barriers and challenges to getting in on that. However, we also have BC parts. We have hundreds and thousands and millions and squillions of pounds worth of drawn and catalogue parts. This is where I see the ability of the supply chain to really engage with Siemens and really capitalise upon this in this area. I'm going to say it can take time though, because we have to find the right fit for you is the right set of parts, and they have to be coming up through the sausage machine, so to speak. The way we actually work at Siemens is we have a collaborative approach to our engagement with our supply chain. We like to drive it through innovative thinking to drive the optimization out of it. And we recognise that our suppliers is the key to our success, which means it's the key to happy customers, whether it's the customers who are providing the trains or the customers or riding on the trains. So you're absolutely key, and we recognise that. So are you ready to come on board? Thank you, Shona.
Brilliant, Nicola and Sue, thanks so much. I think we're going to hear a little bit from, oh, Glyn, have you got your hand up? would you like to ask a question? Maybe it was a mistake, or was it?
No, I pushed the wrong button. Sorry.
No, don't be daft. No, it's fine. It's fine.
I was trying to applaud, but I went to the wrong button. So.
Don't worry, no problem at all. I think we're going to hear a little bit from Campbell again, just on a supplier that has recently worked or been working with Siemens.
Okay, so just a bit of a backdrop to that. So about 10 years ago, we were in Vensis Rail at that time. We were typically delivering signalling projects, only delivering signalling. During the securing of the first kind of major signalling framework back in 2007, 2008, we started to look at much more different, much more complex multidiscipline jobs. And we had to very quickly think, how can we build a supply chain that is sustainable and that can deliver what we are trying to achieve? We were typically an office that had one big job in development and we were delivering one job out on the park. And in the next kind of 3 or 4 years, we ended up having to deliver 3 or 4 big jobs at a time, which was a challenge, a significant challenge, but we had to get some civils contractors, E&P contractors and telecoms contractors. And Paul Martin, who's my civils package manager, so Paul leads civils for Siemens in Scotland, he introduced us to CK Contracts. Myself and Richard Cooper at the time, we went and met Andy and his family at his farm, and we went on a journey. It certainly had some bumps in the road, but I think, and Shona will play the video in a minute, this absolutely just confirms that if you're up for the challenge of working with Siemens, we are certainly up for the challenge of working with you for that longer term, bigger picture. You know, so 10 years later, CK Contracts started off at the farm and they now have a purpose-built facility just down the road. And it's absolutely fantastic what they've done for us. It's not been perfect, but when you're in a partnership, coming together, you have the respect of each other and the challenges that they face. So it's been a really good success story. And, you know, hopefully today is the start of a number of these success stories with new suppliers. So, Shona, can you play the video?
Fingers crossed, eh? No pressure. Right, here goes. Everyone see okay?
I'm Campbell Braid. I'm the Operations Director for Siemens Mobility based in Scotland. And as you can probably hear in the background, we're at Langstilly Farm in Lochwinnoch, which is the original home of CK Contracts. That's a civil supplier that we've been using in Scotland for 10 years.
We started working with Siemens roughly about 10 years ago. The Siemens management came down to our cabins at Langstilly Farm. They got a good laugh now at it because it was porta cabins with holes in the floor. But they worked with us to build what we have got now to a purpose-built office in Glengarnock.
First, what I did see was a farm, but I seen potential and I seen drive and desire with it here. So Siemens, we've been a partnership with Network Rail, delivering significant infrastructure works in Scotland. An example is Carstairs modernisation, where CK Contracts are our civils delivery partner.
That has been a good contract for us. It's one of the biggest contracts we've had from Siemens. Network Rail, I think, are delighted with the work that's being done, both by Siemens and their suppliers, of which CK Contracts are one of.
Working with Siemens has given us continuity of work and it's allowed us to increase our workforce to where we are now from probably 30 people 10 years ago to 100 sponsored staff now. It's allowed to provide training opportunities for both young and old within the business.
It's one of the most deprived areas in North Ayrshire, so having local employees is good for the local economy.
they care about their people, and they want to deliver a good job, and they want to deliver on time, to budget, and deliver it safely, which is the most important part. So I think it's an exciting time to be part of Scotland's railway as we deliver net zero by 2035. So CK contracts are a real inspiration to others, because they just go and make it happen. As we can see, they've got ground source, they've got biomass, and they've got solar, and it just works. So that agility drives that to happen fast.
Working with Siemens over the last 10 years has been really good for CK contracts. It has helped develop us. Hopefully over the next 10 years we will keep developing with them.
Significant opportunities exist for Siemens, our supply chain, including CK, and we should be really, really excited as we go on that journey.
Great stuff. Hopefully okay, everyone. I'm just going to hand over to Nicola, I think, who's going to give us another example of another successful supplier with Siemens.
Yes, just to pick up on, so when Graham was talking about the Verve is a UK platform, and within rail we tend to talk about trains being platforms. And another fine example is of a UK supplier called Baker Belfield. They started out very small. We gave them opportunity to come on board. They came on board. They're now on a global platform and have built a facility in Sacramento, next door to our Sacramento facility. So you can really dream big here, that you get in, you get on board with this platform. This platform could then lead to a different global platform. Those opportunities are there and they do get realised. I'm not going to say for everyone, but there's a real life existing example where we've pushed, we've worked together, and now they've gone global, not just local. Okay, so there's export opportunities and everything once you get on these platforms. Graham will know better, so I'm going to call Graham in on this. Graham, Dezeros and cities, Dezero classics and cities around the world. Throw a few out there, please, Graham.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you look at Dezero City, the concept of Dezero City was designed off the back of Dezero ML, which is again, we tend to produce, when we produce platforms, we tend to produce a UK version. Obviously, we've got the same rail gauge, 1435 millimeters, but we've got the European trains are big and square, whereas ours tend to be more profiled. But we can read a lot of the technology across. So if you look at all the generations of trains we've done, a lot of the suppliers who supply into the Dezero class, Dezero City, also supply to the Dezero ML, and that'll similarly be the case with Dezero Verve. So with Verve, a lot of the technology that we develop for that will also be applicable to future versions of the Mireo. Now, obviously, the Mireo is already in service, so that has a set of suppliers, but it's constantly being developed. And there is a next generation, if you like, a phase 2 of Mireo coming along as well. So the technology from that will be reading across to Verve. So as Nicola says, if you're in on one product, you can, or one platform, you can very much get involved in the other platform. Perhaps it's worthwhile just for a second me explaining what we mean by a platform. And forgive me if I'm telling people to suck eggs, but if you consider going and buying an Audi car as an example, if you go and buy an Audi A4 or you go and buy an Audi A5, you've got a complete range of engine sizes, you've got a complete range of body styles, you've got a complete range of interior trim options, and yet they're all off the same basic engineering concept. So a lot of the features inside them will be exactly the same, even though the customer looks at it and says, well, I'm getting a completely different car. If you look at an A5 and you look at an A4 and you look at a Cabriolet and Estate, whatever they are, a lot of the components and the systems in there will be identical, and that's the way we configure trains as well, if that helps, Nicola.
Yes, thank you. Perfect explanation, Graham. You can see who the train man is. Right, Shona, thank you. So I just wanted to be clear, there's a really big opportunity here, potentially, and it takes time. As Campbell's film said, over 10 years, they've outgrown the cow shed. Now they're in the proper shed. So it can take some time, but it does happen.
Oh, thank you so much, everybody at the Siemens team. Does anybody have anything that they'd like to ask or raise a question? Or here's a question here in the chat from Paul Denning. Paul, do you want to ask, or are you happy for me to do it? I don't mind.
I can ask the question.
Yes, hello.
Paul,
I
on you go.
think
Yeah, can I ask a question?
understood.
We're a structural steel fabricator that's in Scotland. I just wonder what sort of carbon steel, what sort of steels you're using for construction. Is it high yield or is it just really conventional structural steels?
So I can probably answer that. I'm not sure of the technicalities, but we buy steel that makes signal structures, gantries and the like. And if I'm being honest, they're too big and too cumbersome. So if you can come with a different idea and different thinking and lightweight steel, I'll be delighted to speak to you.
Thank you very much. I was also thinking about for Siemens in the in their train. I'm thinking in bogies and things like that.
Right, in terms of the steel that we use in bogies, I'd have to, obviously the body shells are primarily aluminium. So they tend to be 6000 series alloys, so 6005 usually hardened to T6 standard, or 6082 are quite common. We don't use 7000 series alloys, but obviously we're talking about steel here. For my limited memory of bogie design going back a long time, they tended to be in the 43D type category of steel, if that helps.
I think that's we're showing our age that we know what 43D was.
Yeah, I don't know what it's called now, but it was 43D, and I think it's still the same stuff.
It's just an S355, but thank you very much.
Okay.
Thanks, Paul. Sandrine, I think you were going to ask a question. Were you there? I'm not sure if you were.
Yes, I didn't understand who you were asking. Hello, I'm from Howden. We have our headquarters in Scotland, and we are supplying motor fans and cooling systems. Already in contact with the Siemens in Germany and also in India. I would like to know who we can contact to supply you, to support you in Scotland, and to discuss with you about opportunities for motor fans and cooling system.
Do you want me to take this one, Sue? That would be me and Sue. So by all means, we'll put our details out there, and if you contact me and Sue, we'll get you in front of the right commodity and category management person, and then they'll be able to take it from there.
Okay, thank you.
Great stuff. Anyone else? I'm just scrolling through to see if there's any other questions.
Just
Neil
one
Miller.
point, just one point I'd make is if you do want to know more about the specific steels used in bogies, then if you get in touch through Nicola, then I'm sure we can give you the information you need. But if that would help. Our bogies primarily are manufactured in Austria at the moment, certainly the bogie frames, and I don't know what the plan is, Nicola, in terms of assembling them in Goole. I guess we possibly will at some stage in the future, but you'll know more about that than I will.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say at this moment, my keywords should be ringing in everyone's ears. It will take time. Graham's absolutely right. First, we've got to build the facility to manufacture, which is up and will be out there manufacturing. Sue, is it August 24?
No, I think it's going to be this time next year, so March, April.
Excellent, excellent. So that's when we're going to actually be physically manufacturing there. The first phase of manufacture is to bring in a shell. I'm going to say the latter stages, as we roll through the years, is going to be full assembly and manufacture out of the facility. As the skills grow, because you're setting a facility up from scratch, we need to ensure we've got the quality aspects right, the resource fully trained. You can just imagine everything you need to get something off the ground. So that's going to be working. As we work through that, we are going to be taking more and more and more into that facility. It's also, as I mentioned before, with regard to the R&D, it's being set up as a centre of excellence for research and development and for engineering. And this is something that suppliers can tap into as well. So we encourage you very much to reach out to be able to tap into the facilities and the resources, because the raised building 1, and then there's going to be raised building 2, as I said, that's going to be built just behind there. These are resources for the rail industry. They just happen to be on the in the Siemens area, let's just say, of the Siemens hub, but it's for the wider supply chain and suppliers within the rail industry. Okay, so that's there for you as well. I can't remember where I'm going now with this. I've got a cold and now my head's gone now. Did I answer the question?
Yeah, I think you did, Nicola.
Excellent.
Definitely, thank you. Neil Miller, you're next.
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Thank you, because I'm using a 1980s set of earphones here, so I do apologise if you can't hear me. Although we are very versed in technology in our business, so I'll get pulled up for them eventually. First and foremost, thank you very much for chairing this morning, showing you've done a great job. Just to introduce myself, my name is Neil Miller from Clearway UK, where we've got 11 locations across the UK. What we do is, one of our areas, we specialise in CCTV technology. We have worked on rail, and we do at the moment in terms of providing solar powered CCTV towers on site and fixed CCTV security systems for some of your depots as well. I'm just sitting here thinking about on-site security for the bogies or the trains as well. So we've got an NSI Gold Alarm Receiving Centre, which is actually based in Goole. I just put a note on earlier. I drove down there the other day and back up, and I'm still recovering. So it's really just to find out, what opportunities from a securities perspective are available. Thank you.
Neil, if you drop me or Sue a line and we'll put our details out, we will put you in touch with the right person to see if there is. As you can imagine, we're not in every bit of detail, which is fine by us, but we know somebody that is. Always we know somebody that is. So more than happy to make that connection.
Very kind of you. Thank you very much indeed, and I hope you all have a nice weekend.
Thank you, Neil. Stuart Jackson, I think you're next.
Yeah, hi. Hi everyone. I don't know why my camera's not coming on. There we go. Oh, there we are. Yes, thanks for all the presentations. I think they've been really interesting. I'm actually from Transport Scotland, but I come in not from the Rail Directorate, so that might be surprising. Also, I know where Goole is because I'm from Sheffield, but that was an easy one for me. Yeah, so my focus is to decarbonise transport and try and support a Scottish supply chain development. So all of this is really interesting. I know Siemens has open innovation approaches as a global firm, and I just wondered, I know your presentation has shown how you get in from a procurement standpoint, but I just wondered, how do firms get in on an R&D type of level, and how do they collaborate with Siemens on that front? And is there an opportunity for Scottish universities and other expertise in Scotland to be supportive of the supply chain as well?
Yes. Shall I take a bit of that and please add to it? I'll give you my limited information, which is we are engaging with Strathclyde, Glasgow, and there's another one that's escaping me at the moment. Shona, how many universities is there in that area? Strathclyde, Glasgow, and another one.
Caledonian.
Caledonian, yes, thank you. So we are actively engaged with those, and we've got one of our chaps called Greg McDonald. Have a guess where he's from. Neck of the woods, and so we do actively engage with them again as part of this rail hub and the raise building, etc., with the R&D. What I would say from a sustainability perspective is we are pulling sustainability into our RFQs now. So and one thing that I'm very big on is so everyone can hear it on here, is when we're going out to market for new tenders, I actually would like to, I'm going to be putting in my RFQs that I want a sustainability plan within 6 weeks of award, because unless I'm pinning the supply chain down, what I'm finding is there's very many other things that we're all worried about, which there is, but we really just need to give it some focus, even if it's a straw man. We need to give it some focus to be able to build on it during the term of that contract, to get us where we need to be. And it's something we're here to help, support. We're not just saying, off you go then, give us what you've got, because it needs to be more than making the lights into LEDs, but we'll start there if that's where we need to start. but we need to actually progress in, and we do share stories from within our supply chain of the very easy, quick wins that we can do. And everyone also, let me just dissuade you from this, sustainability does not come at a cost. Sustainability impacts your bottom line positively. You just have to understand. And there was a great chap, I know, one of our suppliers, and if you can excuse me for this, he has 3 Bs. If it's better, he'll do it. If it's best, he'll do it. And if it's bullshit, he'll just drop it, because we're not wasting any time on it. And I really stuck with his 3 Bs, because that's my type of man, you know. But if it's better or it's best, he's going to have a go at it and he's going to do it. But if it's not, he's going to quickly drop it and they're going to all move on. And I think that's the type of mindset that we need to get in. Does that help, Stuart? Did that answer the question?
It does. I guess all I'm thinking is that throughout the presentations, there's lots of different challenges you're facing there, and I can see a real role for innovation and companies coming forward and trying to solve those sort of pre-procurement. And I just wondered if there's a space in there to actually collaborate and engage.
I'm going to say yes, and it would fit more into Sue. So there's 2 areas. One, in customer service, I'm going to say yes, there is. That's how we engage with our supply chain, is often innovative, collaborative footing. You know, the days of rattling cages and saying, oh, we need 10% off this, well gone. So that's not how we particularly work. However, Sue, can I pass over to you to add your 2 penneth on, because the design comes out of Germany currently. So is there anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I mean, as we are in the rolling stock organisation, very much driven by the headquarters. So obviously the R&D is very much German centric right now, and obviously the procurement team. So any strategic sourcing decisions are done, but very much with the collaboration of myself. So obviously, like I say, we're a new department, RS, in the UK. So obviously we're still building up a team, but I'm very much part of the reason I'm here is to sort of build bridges between what they're doing over in HQ and what we're doing over here. I speak their language. I can go over there and communicate with them in German. So yeah, that will sort of evolve as it comes, as we go forward.
Yes, we have an insider, Stuart. There you go. What I can say is when Deep Tube came out, we very much want to engage with suppliers early, because everything you're saying. So for instance, on big pieces of kit, like the front masts and things like that, it's often a 2-year. It's all the suppliers are engaged 2 years before we even get into any bid stage. So I can corroborate that, yes, that does happen, and we push that, and this is why we're engaging now, because it's in its R&D, and any suppliers that show that potential will absolutely be nudging them forward. What I would say is, what history says, as Sue's just said, we need to be ready. And being ready is very key. And I gave you the example of Baker Belfield, who've now got a factory in Sacramento. Let me tell you what happened in early days of Baker Belfield. I sent them in to speak with German colleagues, and they told them all about widgets. And I said, how did you get on? And they said, our German colleagues said, oh, well, we've got loads of suppliers who do widgets. And I went, what? That's not what they were supposed to tell you. And so I had to kick the door down again and send them in again to tell them what we wanted them to tell. So we must keep that close collaboration with our UK colleagues, because often we'll know what we want to nudge you and poke you in that direction. And it saves us having to kick doors down again to get you your showing, because in the very nicest of ways, they'll go, oh, I've seen them, not what we wanted, hands, move on to the next one. And so to get, and you can see they got it wrong. And so we had to get it right, and here lies the results of their fabulousness and the joint collaboration. So it's imperative you work with the UK colleagues, that's Sue or myself or whoever, because we'll be your avenue to kicking doors down, making it happen for you.
Definitely, definitely.
And this is from rolling stock perspective. I'm conscious what Campbell was talking about is rail infrastructure, which that tends to be more homegrown.
Yeah, so our R&D is completely done in the UK. It's predominantly done in Chippenham, where our head office is, but we engage with a number of SME R&D type companies for different parts of the systems that we design and develop. So yeah, there's probably opportunities there. We do need to get closer to the universities and get some of the great exciting stuff that they do, get that embedded in our business. So there's kind of two bits to it. R&D definitely in the UK, but we certainly need to be closer. Stuart, it's a really good point. Yeah.
Can I throw one in, Stuart? This is just a general, and I might need some help because I may not know quite what I'm talking about. And what about ChatGPT? GBT? Who knows about ChatGPT? Is that what it's called? ChatGPT. Stuart's nodding. Now, in one way, it's quite terrifying me. In another way, it's quite exciting me. And so, and I'm just thinking, looking forward. And this is about the machine that can write poetry. You say, write a love poem for my wife, and she thinks you're marvellous. Or tell me what I'm going to have for dinner today with what's in my fridge, and it'll tell you and give you a recipe and things. I've gone basic here. You can see I've gone basic. But it's picking up speed and memento, and for you're getting it hot off the press for the whole of our supply chains. It's where is this going to take us? Because if it's been done before, this AI can look at it and say, okay, that's been done before. Here's how we can innovate it. So I'm just putting it out there because innovation and digitalization and AI and all that stuff, which is not my world. So don't worry, it's not my world, but I hope it's somebody's world. It's on the horizon. And I'm just thinking ahead to 2028 and things like that.
And to be honest, some of the universities are already working on AI, machine learning. And if you're looking at equipment which can learn and teach itself where there's issues, then you're into a completely different space in terms of maintenance costs and upkeep. So yeah, I mean, that's what I mean. There's many challenges like that where universities are already talking about it. They're already looking at these things, and you know there's opportunities for trialing those ideas ahead of time. There's also the ERIN network, of course, which is the Rail Innovation Network for the UK, based in Birmingham, as well. So yeah, there's a few different connections there. But
definitely,
I think I've had lots of time on that question. So, but thank you for comprehensive answers from all three of you.
Thanks, Stuart. I think Grant, do you have a question? Grant Harley.
Yes, I had a couple of questions. Really, one was around we're already on the zero city fleets, and there's things that we're looking in terms of digitization and helping with maintenance operations and how we can make that a smoother operation, which, as well as working on with help on the Verve, would also then feed back into the existing operations with Siemens. And it's how do we sort of build that into the cost? And there might be a conversation with yourselves as to how we could best evidence that, because there would be benefits not just to the future fleets but the existing fleets. Then just building on the last person there is, we've also looking at research and development and things like that. How can we work with, you know, what will look like in 2028? So pricing now, we've got camera systems where we're looking at edge technology, edge processing. Pricing now for a capability that will have moved on in ways we don't even know at this point in time, and how do we build that sort of into the thinking, and it's probably a number of conversations. So it's trying to work with the procurement team within Siemens, and so just some advice really of how we could do that.
Who do you work with out of procurement, Grant, already? Which fleet?
We're on Moorgate, Thameslink in South West.
Moorgate,
so
so
three.
It's going to be a mix of Courtney Cooper or Donna Pavarotti Barrett.
Yes, we do. Yeah.
Yeah. So speak to those ladies. They're your connection in. Share exactly what we've shared, and make sure they give you the support to contact the right people.
Great, that'd be great. Thanks very much. And then also on the researcher side, I'll pick up separately because we are about to launch into some research programs. So there's Scottish universities want to help with us to tie into that and think on there. And if there's operational needs that Campbell might need, then we'll pick that up. But we'll go back into our buyers that side. Thank you.
No problem.
Super. I've got to drop off now, but thank you very much. It's been very informative. Good presentations. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Grant.
Thank you.
I think that's pretty good timing. We've got 4 minutes left. So if anyone's got a last minute, we can maybe squeeze one more question in and then we can conclude the session today. Any more takers? I don't think so. I think that's us. So just a final word from me. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining. I hope it's been useful. I think there's been a lot of great stuff from Siemens, and you can tell they're absolutely committed to working with new suppliers in Scotland. If you know, if there's, and further afield, if there's the right skills and capability, and they're looking at building longer term relationships with, which I think is so important. So I really appreciate your time today. Everybody who attended, and a huge big thank you to Nicola, Graham, Sue and Campbell. Thanks to RIA Scotland who partnered with us on this event too. Look out for further events. We're hoping to do another event similar to this but in person, and we'll send out further details of that so that you can find out more and hopefully take part. And with that, on that note, it's 11:30 on Friday. I hope you all have a lovely weekend. The sun is shining here in Ayrshire, so enjoy your weekend, and thanks for joining.
Cheers, Shona. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Cheers, folks. See you soon.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye now.
Thank you. Bye now.